are going to share the one study which we conducted in our country, that what are the social and the environmental issues which, in case we ignore, then the entire, you can say, the viability of the project get lost. So what we are intending, that how to integrate the, you can say, in the planning process, the social and environmental issues, so that the cost of the particular transmission system is minimal, and also the operational efficiency is higher. So I'll just cancel, because the which one is the forward? Yeah. Oh no. No. Forward is this one. No. That's all right. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, as you know that our power requirement is very high. We have, as on date, this the September 2017 figure, that around 330,000 megawatt power requirement, and you can see that nearly 65% our power requirement in a country is met from the thermal, and precisely if you see that around 60% when we talk about the thermal is the coal, and the diesel is, or the oil is very less, that is only 0.25%, and the gas is also not very considered substantial when we talk about the thermal, it's less than 10%. And we have the good progress in hydro, that we have the consider around the 15% contribution of the hydro, and nuclear consider debatable issue. We are not going for the new nuclear power plant because of the same issue as what we are going to discuss, environmental as well as the social issues. And then also we have the very ambitious targets, and even we have achieved that nearly 70% of our total power requirement is met from the renewable, and we are going to increase this very soon and cross the 20%. So this is the typical, you can say, the power transmission system. We have the power plant, then we have to, you can say, go for the transmission and to the consumer, the high voltage consumer, the low voltage consumer. So in this entire, you can say, the system, you can see that this is the network what we have in our country. We are crossing through the various, you can say, the ecological, environmental sensitive areas, various urban areas, various villages. So that create lot of, you can say, the social and environmental issues. And as we have already discussed, that if we are not identifying these issues at the time of planning, then the cost, that is the social cost, environmental cost would be higher, and sometimes happen that we might not be able to operate that particular system which we have created. So with that intention, this particular study was planned, and this is basically the live study which we conducted for 765 kV transmission line of the around 630 kilometer in the India. And you can see that the glimpse, this is the power plant, so supercritical power plant of the 3300 megawatt, and this is the, you can say, the 765 kilowatt transmission line which was proposed. And when the layout of the proposed this transmission system was considered, we have the set of environmental legislations or the regulation in our country, starting from the Environmental Protection Act, which you can say the impose certain, you can say, the restrictions, that if, for example, if your power line is going to pass through the some national park or the sanctuary or the corridor of migratory birds or the animal, these are the things which you have to do. Likewise, then similarly we have the, you can say, the social act which have been recently, you can say, the enacted, which you can say the mandate that although under this particular, say, we have the Indian Electricity Act, which says that for laying the transmission line, we need not have to acquire the land, but we have to get the rights for using the land. And under this, we have to have the proper, you can say, the resettlement and rehabilitation action plan. As Dr. Arvind was mentioning, that they are not able to exploit the hydro potential only because of the one reason, that is the social issue. So the social issues become very, very important. And then we have to have the, can say, the compliance with the various international standards like World Bank, IFC. So this particular project, what we are talking of, basically the funded by IFC, and as a result that we have to not only comply with our national regulations and the guideline, but also we complied the IFC regulations, which are basically the World Bank guidelines. As already I have mentioned that this particular case study, what we are talking of, is of 765 kV transmission, high voltage transmission system, which will be having the, you can say, the two line parallel line, 630 kilometer, that's 630 into 2, you can say the around 1260 kilometer long line. And this is the, you can say, the existing land setting, what we were discussing, that it might be crossing the water bodies. And as you know that in high voltage, we have the corona effect. If we are not taking care, it will be affecting the aquatic life. It is passing through, you can see that, just glimpse, passing through the settlement. Again, there is a safety risk, there is a other environmental risk. So with that intention, we started with the public consultation and had a initial environmental examination that if our layout is this, how it will be, can say, the going through the various, you can say, the ecological sensitive area, what would be the impact, likely impact, and so on. So considering, can say, the public consultation and also the type of land use it would be crossing, we would be preparing the detailed scope of our study and then assess the existing environmental setting, and then we go for the prediction of the impact, evaluation of impact, and based on the evaluation of impact, superimposing that what is the regulatory requirement or the various other policies requirement, we prepare the mitigation plan, and then that mitigation plan need to be implemented, monitored, and if required, we have to make the corrective action so that we can achieve the goal. So when we talk about, say, this particular case study, and just to have the idea that you can see that our entire corridor is having the, say, the 80% is your agricultural land setting. So you can say the prioritize that if our 80% of the corridor is falling under the agricultural land, the impact on the crop yield, impact on the agriculture activities should be minimized. So it has to be taken care. Similarly, you can see that the water bodies of our total corridor is around 2.91%. That is also quite significant. Then we have identified the marshy land, forest, then the barren land and the rocky area where we need not have to take much, you can say, the precautions. And then we have also assessed that what is the existing, you can say, the air quality in terms of the PM 2.5, PM 10, sulfur dioxide, oxide of nitrogen, although we are not going to have during the operation period any change in this, but during the construction period, this PM 2.5, PM 10 or SOx NOx is matter. So we have, because the number of local legislations which can say impose the restriction that when you are doing the certain, can say, the developmental activities, construction, then the air quality should not deteriorate beyond this. So for that reason, we have to assess This gives you the glimpse that how we collected the on-site data, starting from the land use as we were discussing, and then the air quality monitoring. Similarly, we have also recorded the noise level, because when we will be having the operation of high voltage transmission line, lot of noise is generated, and this noise will be affecting especially the corridor where we have the wildlife. So for that reason, the baseline noise also need to be assessed, and also similarly, as we were discussing in the Dr. Arvind lecture also, that the socioeconomic issues. So what we found that around, you can see that we have the two, can say the bar diagram here. One is the orange, another is blue. That is, orange is the your core area, another is your buffer area. So you can see that around 4,000 families which are falling in our core area, and the 4,000 families, that makes around, you can say, the 20,000 people. So if we ignore this issue, what we are talking about, the safety environment, we are posing the risk to more than 20,000 people. So we have identified the potential impact like soil quality during the construction phase and also during the operation phase, because the impact nature as well as the magnitude will change when we talk about the high voltage transmission line. So as we were discussing, during the construction phase, the soil quality might, you can say, the get affected due to the various, you can say, the excavation, compaction activities. When we are, you can say, the going for the construction of the towers, the soil might get compacted there, and that might affect the soil fertility. During the construction time, we might generate the lot of debris which might lead the, you can say, the contamination to the local soil, the surface water bodies if not taken care. Similarly, the aesthetic and visual impact maybe during construction time not very significant, but as we were discussing, when these, can say, the high voltage transmission line are passing through the corridor, say the forest area or the river, or the entire aesthetic value get changed. So that also need to be taken care, that when we are finalizing the layout, the landscape of that particular area should not change significantly. Then the surface water hydrogeology will not affect much. Ecology and flora, fauna need to be taken care, as we were discussing, that depending on the your layout, if it's passing through the certain wild animal corridor, it might have the significant impact, and that need to be avoided. Then the traffic and transport also at the time of the construction, lot of construction worker, various construction equipments might affect the your local traffic management system. Then as far as the your air pollution, noise pollution, as we were discussing, will not be significant, but at the time of the construction, because of the construction equipment, there might be some change in the air quality, some change in the noise level. Then when we were talking about the social impact, like we were discussing about the partial loss of the productivity of the land might get affected because of the construction activities. Then also the temporary loss during the construction of tower in your standing crop, or the other, you can say, the your fertility of the soil. Then impact on public properties and the common resources need to be avoided. Then the your opportunities to the local people will be, can say, the increasing in terms of the job. This will be temporary job, but still that need to be taken care. Then also the impact on the community and their cultural aspect need to be taken care, and the impact on the public amenities and utilities also need to be taken care. Similarly, when we talk about the operational phase, as already we have discussed, that the soil quality will not be making, can say, the much impact, because only when we have the maintenance, we use the various types of the pens for minimizing the corrosion effects on the towers, and these pens are basically aluminum oxides. So if we are not taking the proper the care of the spillage that might affect the soil fertility, then there won't be the significant waste generation at the time of the operation. Aesthetic value and the visual impact, as we have already discussed, if the layout have been planned properly, the impact during the operation phase would be minimum if we have taken care of the basic land setting and the landscape. Then the surface water and hydrogeology will be not getting affected. The ecology, that is the flora and fauna, will definitely have some impact that need to be taken care. And also we have to take care that if our corridor is passing through some environmental sensitive area like the national park, wildlife sanctuary, the proper protective measures need to be adopted. Sorry. Then at the time of the operation, we have the electromagnetic field generation due to the high voltage transmission line. But what we have found in this particular case, that this will be not exceeding the limit, that is the 4.16 kilowatt, what is the permissible limit for this thing, and the magnetic field intensity will not be exceeding 100 micro Tesla in the public area. And these are the likely impact, and you can see that when we are talking about the operation phase, the tiger recently has climbed on the high voltage transmission line. That is very, very surprising. Similarly, the other wild animal and also the man got electrocuted. So likewise, we have the number of cases, if the proper safety and the protective measures are not taken, that might happen. So accordingly, the effective, the environmental and social management plan was suggested, as we have discussed, to minimize the impact on the soil quality, minimize your impact on the contamination of the soil, surface water, then also minimize the impact, that is the aesthetic impact and the visual quality matching with your basic land setting. Then also minimizing the impact on the surface water and the hydrogeology, ecology and the flora fauna, traffic and the transport system, air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, all that have been taken care at the time of suggesting the mitigative plan. Similarly, for the operation phase, on the similar line, what the mitigative measures need to be adopted that have been suggested, and this is your International Commission Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Guideline, that what should be the maximum the exposure limit, and accordingly the distance from your sensitive areas or from human settlement have been taken care, so that the exposure is not exceeding the permissible limit. And similarly, as we were discussing, there are number of risks, like during the construction phase, the fall hazards during tower erection, various the accidents, likelihood of accidents. Similarly, for the operation phase, what we were talking about, the electrocution, then your impact on the agricultural yield, and all to avoid all this, the effective the disaster management plan as well as the environmental management plan have been suggested. So we can conclude here that the high voltage overhead transmission line will have the significant impact when we talk about the social impact or talk about the environmental impact. So from the the initial phase itself, when we are planning the layout of your transmission line, that has to be taken care, that has to be assessed, and this particular model gives you the detailed the methodology, that how we would be integrating and having the effective management plan to minimize the enviro-social impact. Thank you.